Let's talk a little bit about car titles. Now, in Canada, or I say specifically in Ontario, normally we call it brands. It's on the ownership under category called brands. But generally speaking, people know it as titles. So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay, so to begin, why we keep saying brand and title, let's just clarify that first. Most people knows it as what's the title of the car. Is a clean title is what you normally go on. But when you look on your ownership, I believe it's on the top right hand corner. If you look all the way up there, I'll try to see if I can find an example and pop it up somewhere for you. But if you look up there, it will actually say brand, not title, it will say brand. And then under the brand category, it will say none. Yeah, none is actually a title. We'll go through it. Salvaged, rebuilt, irreparable. Yes, so we got 4 brands in Canada, or specifically let's say Ontario, because that's we're talking about the Ontario ownerships and the brands on there. None. That would be the first one I'm going to explain to you. What the hell is none? Now, keep in mind, the key thing you have to remember with the none title, it does not mean that your car was never in an accident, okay? It does not even mean that your car was never a total loss and kind of went through the insurance and insurance paid the person for the car in full, and then insurance sold the car as a total loss. Somebody bought it and rebuilt it. That is actually still a possibility even if it says none, okay? It just means at the time of the accident, the insurance did not deem the car, or whoever the appraiser was or the adjuster was, did not deem that the car accident was structural. So they chose not to brand the car. So you would still have to look at your traditional Carfax or whatever you use for your history to figure out if the car was in an accident or not. Because I want you to understand, even if it says none, there is a possibility the car could have been in an accident, okay? Now, because I mentioned the term total loss, I'm going to clarify another misconception in the business. Some people think that total loss is also a type of brand. It is not a brand because like I mentioned, a salvage car can be total loss, a clean title car could have been total loss. It just means that the insurance chose, instead of fixing the car for the client, they will pay off the client and then try to sell that car. So that car is a loss on their books, so it's considered a total loss. Now, insurance choose to write off cars for a number of reasons. That'll be another complicated video, so we're not going to get into too in-depth with that. But insurance can write off a car just because maybe the repairs worth more than what the car is. It could also be that the customer is a little bit picky and the customer does not want, maybe the car is fairly new and the customer does not want the car to be repainted because they had a newer car, so the insurance would just write it off to satisfy the customer. Tons of reasons. Again, we're not going to get into that because the video would be too long. Let's go into the next title, which is salvage. So salvage would mean it's very rare if you buy a car in Ontario that is already fixed and being sold at a dealership would have a title salvage. Most times you would encounter a title salvage is because you buying a car that have an existing accident on it and you are going to fix it and flip it, or fix it and drive it. So you're buying the car from an insurance auction or with existing damage, it might still have salvage. So that means when the car was in an accident, the car actually went through the appraiser / the adjuster, either or, whatever the hell you want to call them. It went through there and they decided that the car had a structural accident. And because of the structural accident, the title now says salvage, okay? So for sure, once you see salvage, you know for a fact the car was in an accident before. Now, salvage and rebuild kind of work together. So by me explaining salvage, you're going to understand rebuild, so I wouldn't have to go in depth with rebuild. When you say salvage, after you fix that car, don't worry about safety inspection. Safety inspection is a separate inspection. But after you've done a salvage car, you have to do something that's called a structural certificate. You got to get the car inspected to make sure that it was fixed right. Now, some licensed body shops will be able to do a structural certificate. So if you buy a salvage car and you're gonna go fix it yourself, it's kind of good when I say fix it yourself, I mean take it to a body shop to fix for you. It's kind of good to make sure that that shop is licensed and that shop could actually issue you a structural certificate, because you will need one. Now if the shop is not licensed, they can still fix the car for you, but they would have to take some pictures of the car on the frame machine, and they would have to probably know a guy who could get the structural certificate for you. Okay, so again, we can help with a little bit more information on that. If you need any help figuring out your titles, you can book a consultation with us. If you basically bought a salvage car and you want to know how the process works in more depth, you could book a consultation with us. I'll put the links in the description below. Okay, so once you finish fixing your car and you get that structural certificate, providing it pass, okay, providing it pass, you will now get that certificate that you'll take to the ministry. Okay, when you take that certificate to the ministry, they will change the titles for you, or the brand section, and then it will say rebuilt. Okay, so that's how you transition from salvage to rebuilt. So that would tell you as a consumer, if you buy a car and it says rebuilt, you know that it was an accident before, okay, but you also know that it already passed the structural certificate. So the common question is, how often do you have to do that structural certificate? Do you ever have to do the inspection again? And the answer is no. It means that the person already did the inspection that is necessary, so you just basically keep driving and don't worry about it. Okay, it just means that all the necessary inspections was already taken care of. You just buy and drive. Okay, but there is, I guess we can talk about cost savings if you're interested in that, of how much money you could save buying a car with that type of history, but that's for another video. We're gonna just keep focusing on the titles here. Okay, and then the last title would be irreparable, which basically, I guess, is self-explanatory. Irreparable, you cannot fix it, you know what I mean? So in Ontario, water damaged vehicles are now automatic irreparable, I guess, because of all the electronic in cars. They don't want to, insurance don't deal with the headache afterwards after repairing it for you. Also, you know, it's hard to get all the moisture out under the carpets. There's so much cloth in the vehicles and sponges and that stuff, which would basically cause mold and not healthy for you, and insurance don't want you to sue them afterwards for health issues. So once there is water damage in the vehicle, it is automatically irreparable. And then if it is some very structural, serious damage, they would put it as irreparable as well. So irreparable, you will, no matter what you do, there is no type of certificate that can put that shit back on the road. Okay, so if it's irreparable, it's irreparable. You could only buy this car for parts if you are a body shop, or you're a parts guy, or a scrapyard person, or you're an exporter. Okay, you can ship that car out of country. Some countries, some islands and places don't give two shits about irreparable. If the car runs and drive, somebody will buy it from you. Okay, so you find that sometimes irreparable cars, if it, let's say, was a water damage irreparable, sometimes they'll fetch decent money, because people know that they could ship the cars to a different place and then still sell it. People realize that a lot of good working parts on it, and the parts are valuable. But anyway, if it's irreparable, it's you can drive it in Ontario again. Okay, so hopefully this video was helpful, telling you the different types of titles and brands, how it works and what it is. And I think I'll make a video in the future explain to you guys the value of buying a rebuilt car, or a salvage car, or accident car. You know, pros and cons. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.